What I'd like to do at this point is to ask the 1950 Suburban League baseball champions, coached by Jim Ryan, to please come forward. I just want to show you a little bit of, this was the trophy that the 1950 baseball team won for winning the Suburban League Championship. They ended up in a tie with Newton, had to play Newton a playoff game. It has a little bit of an interesting story. Those of you who know Jim Ryan, and Jim Ryan was just a great man. He and Joe Dwyer ran Victory Field. But Jim Ryan had a different kind of personality. He was a little bit of an iconoclast, you know. And Jim Ryan refused to give the trophy to the high school. And he kept it in his house. And then Jim Ryan passed away, and his wife gave it to Frankie Fitzpatrick, who's kept it in his cellar. So tonight, for the first time in 42 years, we unveil the 1950 baseball Suburban League Championship trophy. The 1939 baseball team has been considered by... You guys got to keep quiet while I'm talking. Thank you. I learned that in school. 1939 baseball team has been considered by many the best in the history of Watertown High School, but the 1950 team was a great team. An overall record of 16-3 in the Suburban League, 9 starters from the 1950 squad, 3 went on to sign major league contracts. And the call to roll in that team was Shannon and Renzi and both Stackpoles, Barry, Shashutian, Lopez, Fitzpatrick, Godfrey, Burns, Goggin, McElroy, Sabino, Horn, Zona. Tremendous team. Starting with a 9-8 win over Newman, the Raiders ran off 6 straight to open the season. They lost only twice in the regular season, both times to Newton. Tight games of 5-4 and 3-0 as the season wound down. They found themselves tied with Newton. Dead heat to the top of the Suburban League. They played a playoff game at Boston College. And Watertown, red hot that day, dispatched Newton 9-3 behind the excellent pitching of Joe Barry and a 3-run homer by Don Sabino. It was Watertown's first playoff berth since 1939. Shannon came off his 400-plus junior year to hit .528 in 1950 with 22 RBIs in 8 league games. This despite breaking his ankle a week before the season ended. Phil Renzi, arguably one of the great baseball players ever here, added power in the outfield, and Phil Stackpole was the best backstop in the league and one of the best baseball players and athletes ever to play here. All 3 would later sign major league contracts. In the playoffs, the Red Raiders first base Weymouth, and after spotting Weymouth 3 runs in the second inning, they bounced back with 6 in the third. Singles by Shashuti and Renzi, Fitzpatrick and Horn were followed by walks to Zoner and McElroy, and then, as the paper noted, a smacking double by Phil Stackpole ruined Weymouth's afternoon. The Raiders would fall in the next game to powerhouse Somerville, but they'd already proved that they belonged with the best. They had one of the best coaches in the game, and for those of us who knew him, one of the best guys, Jim Ryan. And he was assisted by another Hall of Famer who made everyone who ever played with him, played for him, love the game of baseball, George Yankowski. Indeed, this May, the first base dugout at Victory Field will be dedicated in honor of Jim Ryan and Joe Dwyer, both of them long-time Watertown baseball fixtures. The Hall of Fame is happy to induct one of the great baseball teams in the history of the high school, the 1950 Suburban League champions coached by Jim Ryan. Phil Stackpole will speak on behalf of the team. I want to stay here with a hook.
Bob's going to stay here for me because...
We warned him the last time it was 25 minutes, so we're getting a little worried.
This is... I'm so sorry, this is this is the class of 1950, and you put us in a position in this presentation that we've had a senior bus waiting outside for us to slam. And we've had quite a few people here who played sports, not just baseball, but football and hockey. And we have some Hall of Fame members who've been inducted, who also are here this evening. But when I was inducted in 1994, that's why I wanted Norton to stay up here. The introduction he gave was, Phil Stackpole played football, basketball, and baseball. He had a terrible temper, and that was it. And tonight he waits till the very last to put my senior guys up here.
Would anybody say he didn't have a terrible temper? Raise your hand. You know. Yeah, I struck.
No, anyway, I've got to tell you one story because we're going to be out of here very quickly. But this is the class of 1950, and that's 52 years ago. And I was the youngest guy in the class.
Oh.
But I just want to tell you one story, then we're going to be on our way. I'd like to introduce each person before we leave, but I want to tell you the story first. Frank Fitzpatrick and Dick Shannon. Dick came up from Atlanta, and Frank is a very nice place down in, what's the name of it? Hyannisport. We all know where that is. And I happened to come down to visit them, and Dick was there, and they were sitting in chairs next to each other, and I overheard this conversation. Dick said to Frank, "Frank, I'll tell you something. This is the best morning I've ever had. I'm sitting here, and I can hear the birds singing. I can hear the waves lapping over the rocks. I can hear the wind going through the trees." And Frank says, "That's so?" He says, "Yeah, I have a new hearing aid." And Frank said, "That's terrific, Dick. I just love it." And he said, "What kind is it?" And Dick said, "It's about 9:45. That's a true story. Anyway, these guys, what it takes to become a Hall of Fame member. Courses like this. First guy here is Frank Fitzpatrick. Frank, raise your hand, who was our first baseman. Two seniors. Dick Horan was our second baseman and shortstop. Next was Phil Renzi. And he's so happy to have that hat on because you heard him say he liked it 5 years ago when he had hair. And beat John, will you step up front, Jim? John Zona, who still looks like one of our old users. Jack Shastudi, an incredible third baseman. Dick Ash Long, Don Long, who was a reserve catcher, but one spunky guy. Jim Lopez. Jim was another Hall of Fame inductee back in three years ago, right? Heath isn't here. Next is Paul Stackpole, my brother. Paul was an outfielder. And then Dick Shannon, who also signed a professional baseball contract. Dick was a great second baseman. And that's it. And thank you very much for the introduction.